नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल, राम राम सा, खम्बाणी, वणक्कम, प्रणाम। आप सभी को ऑल्टरनेट मीडिया में फिर से स्वागत है। हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं PVR नरसिम्हा राव सर। एंड मुद्दा सभी को पता है, जो हमने देखा 22 अप्रैल को, जो कि इनिशियली प्लान हुआ था 20 अप्रैल के लिए एज पार्ट ऑफ प्लान ए, एंड देन इट शिफ्टेड टू प्लान बी बिकॉज उनको वो मौका नहीं मिला, वो लोग नहीं मिले जिन पे वो अटैक करना चाहते थे। बट इसके बीच में हम हमले की बात कर रहे हैं, अटैक की बात कर रहे हैं, आगे क्या होने वाला है जानते हैं। Periana से Periana, a very warm welcome on the show.
Thank you, Gayatri ji, and thank you to all your audience. And as everybody knows, in Kashmir on April 22, this terrorist attack happened. And unlike many other terrorist attacks where basically they just kill people, here they actually targeted Hindus. They made sure that all the people that they were killing were Hindus. So there is a lot of anger and frustration in the country. And scanning my social media feed, I see that a lot of people are also not only mad at Pakistan, but some of them are also mad at Narendra Modi ji. They basically think that he's not doing enough. He basically uh, he needs to go and do an all-out attack on Pakistan. So there are basically various sentiments right now. People are very emotional, very understandably. And I just want to take a step back and look at things astrologically as impassionately as I can, as I'm able to do. Now the thing
Before
is,
we move forward, Periana, I remember in one of your earlier shows you had mentioned that the time till May end or first week of June are very difficult for India. In one, I think last to last, or Modi show, I think one of the Modi shows we had mentioned that the situation in Bharat will be very tough during that month, and this is what we are seeing right now. Ji.
yeah, this six planet conjunction that people talked about in Pisces in the at the end of March. Basically, it will play out during April and May. But the thing is, as I mentioned a few times earlier, these are not times that basically bring something that necessarily bring something tangible right away, but these are things that sow seeds for something really big later on, basically. So this is a very critical time, very very sensitive time, and during such a time this happened, this attack. And if we look at India's chart, from India's lagna in the independence chart, this is actually the 11th house of gains. From India's moon, this is actually the 9th house of fortune. But the thing is, there is also, apart from Rashi chart, there is Navamsa chart. The Navamsa chart in the case of individuals shows marriage, your relations with others, etc. Whereas your dharma, the dharma you follow. But the thing is, in the case of countries, it shows your relationships. It shows your foreign policy. It shows your diplomacy. It shows all those things, basically, your interactions with the rest of the countries. So, in the Navamsa chart, India's independence chart has moon in Simha Rasi, in Leo. Even though it is in Karka Rasi in the Rasi chart, it's in Leo in the Navamsa chart. So that is important for relationships. So from Leo, Pisces is the 8th house of big setbacks and big changes, big upheavals, etc. So the Shashtagraha Kuta that occurred at the end of March was in the 8th house from India's natal moon in Navamsa. And right now also, actually, at the time of the attack, we had four or I think five planets in the eighth house from Leo, basically in Pisces. Moreover, just a few hours uh, around the attack time, there was an exact Saturn Rahu conjunction around 3 degrees 48 minutes in Pisces. So there was a very close Saturn Rahu conjunction. Saturn shows grief and sadness and uh, withdrawal, and Rahu shows machinations, manipulations, and cheating, frustrations, etc. So when Saturn and Rahu are together, they are both very negative planets, very krura grahas. So when they come together, their energies basically play together. So frustration, anger, sadness, all these emotions can arise from it. And that happened to be in the eighth house from India's natal moon in the Navamsa. As I said, India's Navamsa moon is in Simha Rasi. So this is basically the eighth house from it. So understandably, there will be a lot of emotion right now in India. But the thing is, this kind of conjunctions, this kind of combinations, which trigger the sixth house or eighth house from the Navamsa moon in a country's chart, can trigger wars. And moreover, in my annual predictions video at the end of March for the lunar new year, when I made that video, I clearly said that this year there is a good chance that India may get involved in a war or two, basically, or multiple wars. So this is unfortunately a year with a good chance of war for India. And as far as Pakistan is concerned, if we look at Pakistan's annual chart, annual solar chart of August 14, 2024, it's a terrible chart. For example, in the Navamsa chart, which shows relations with other countries, there is a Seni Chandra Ketu combination in the eighth house, which is terrible. It shows a lot of sadness, lot of headless action, lot of suffering on account of relations. Basically, Pakistan's relations will really be cut off from many countries. This is a terrible year for Pakistan. And now, if we look at the chart for the time when the attack was made, the time I have is April 22, 2:45 p.m. Give or take 5-10 minutes. Pahalgam, India, Kashmir, India. So if we make a chart for that time, see, the thing is, every action has reactions given by the nature. So the chart made for that action basically shows what kind of reactions will come, because you're planting a seed at that time. By taking an action, there is an intent. Basically, the people who engage in a particular action, whether you join a job, whether you are doing a terrorist attack on a country, or whether you launch a war, whatever you are doing, it unfolds in a particular way, and the destiny of that unfolding is determined by the planetary position when you start that activity. So that Muhurat chart, the Muhurta chart, is important for seeing how this will play out for the actor, the person who actually engaged in this action. So the doer and the ones who basically made them do. So the terrorists themselves, as well as the people who led the activity, like the if there are any ISI people who are involved, ISI bosses who are involved in this activity, this shows how things will play out for them. So in that chart, Lagna is in the middle of Simha. So basically, even if the time is off, it will still be Simha Rasi, because it's exactly in the middle of Simha, and the Lagna changes only an hour before or after. So it is Simha Lagna, and the eighth house contains 4 planets: Venus, Mercury, Saturn, and Rahu. Particularly, the seventh lords, both the seventh lord, Saturn and Rahu, are in the eighth house. That's a pakka marka combination. So it basically shows death-like suffering. The blessing is Lagna Lord is in the ninth house. Lagna Lord is Sun. He's exalted in the ninth house. So basically, that's the blessing. But overall, there are enough weaknesses in this chart. Particularly, eighth house is very strong. So whoever caused this action, whoever basically planned this and got this executed, this is going to be very expensive for them. This is going to be very pricey. This is going to, because there is a marker combination, this can even result in the death of the people who planned this. Death means basically if Pakistan is behind this, then basically this will be very expensive. This can result in Pakistan falling. This can be the trigger for that basically. Now, coming to India's chart, as I mentioned, this is the eighth house from India's Navamsa moon, but moreover, there is another factor. If you look at India's chart, Navamsa chart relations, Lagna is Meena Lagna. And in the Lagna, we have Rahu, who's the 12th lord of hidden enemies. So Rahu is at around 2 degrees in India's natal Navamsa. So this Saturn Rahu conjunction that occurred a couple of days back on April 22, this is exactly a degree or two away from the Rahu in India's natal Navamsa Lagna. So it basically triggers hidden enemies coming to affect basically. You were going to say something, Gayatri ji?
Because the topic was related there only with respect to the death of the people who planned it. Actually, it is Asim Munir who planned it, as per the intelligence gathering that we had and the information that we have in the public domain. It was carried out definitely by the terrorist, and Pakistan as a country whole is responsible for it. So, do you mean death of Asim Munir and death of Pakistan? Because what I'm hearing is I'm going to do a separate episode on that also. Asim Munir may also be isolated and kicked out, or maybe hanged also. This thing I'm saying with a lot of caution, because I wanted to do a separate episode with a geopolitical expert. Asim Munir is being targeted within the country itself. Ji sir.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the exact names, etc. But the thing is, the perpetrators, the people who planned this attack, and the people
It
who
was
were
Asim
involved in
Munir, sir,
this
the
attack,
head of the Pakistani army. He himself
mhm,
planned it
if
along with
yeah,
others.
whoever it is, they will be brought to justice because they picked a really bad time to do something big like this. And the other thing is, as far as Pakistan is concerned, if Pakistan is behind this, this will be the start of their fall. And apart from this event, basically, apart from this particular nimitta, if we look at Pakistan chart itself, I mentioned many times that Pakistan is in a decay. Basically, the coming few years are really critical for Pakistan. Pakistan is very likely to break up into multiple countries. So my feeling is, given that Pakistan is already having a lot of bad karmas unfolding for them, they picked a really terrible muhurta to execute this particular action, to do this activity against India, this terrorist activity against India. This is really going to be the trigger for their fall. The thing is, Pakistan was anyway, even without this, they were likely to get mired in multiple war fronts, with Afghanistan on the west, and then Beluchistan losing control over Beluchistan and fighting Beluchistan, and some skirmishes with India on the eastern front. So all these were anyway likely in the coming year. This was basically a terrible year for them. But now this will increase the resolve for India. Now, looking at Narendra Modi ji's chart, it is even more interesting compared to India's chart. If we look at Narendra Modi ji's chart, he has Rahu at the beginning of Pisces in his Rashi chart, in the sixth house of enemies or vanquishing enemies. When Krura grahas like Rahu are in the sixth house, they show destroying enemies, crushing enemies. And that Rahu was triggered by the Sen Rahu conjunction that I mentioned, which is at 3 degree 48 minutes in Pisces. So his natal Rahu in his birth chart, let me look at the longitude. He's at, yeah, around 6 degrees. So he's basically 2 degrees away from this conjunction. So Rahu in the natal chart shows brutally crushing the enemies. So that has been activated. Moreover, there are a few Rajyogas in the 12th house of detachment in his chart. We have Sun, Mercury, Saturn, and Ketu in the 12th house of detachment. And all the planets are within 1 degrees to 3 degrees. And if you remember, Saturn Rahu conjunction is in Pisces around 3 degree 48 minutes. So Saturn and Rahu at the time of that conjunction are exactly aspecting these 4 planets in his 12th house. So my assessment is he will approach this with a very detached mind, and he will crush his enemies. And this whole activity may also provoke him to, basically, because 12th house is activated, this may eventually make him renounce politics. Basically, after this act, just like after the Mahabharata war, after major wars, the great men who lead those wars basically withdraw from public life. He may basically want to go
Trigger.
out on a high. So in the next year or two, he may actually leave way for somebody else to become prime minister before the next election, so that the new person is basically having enough time to come to speed and plan the next election. So that is another thing that may be triggered based on Sri Narendra Modi's chart. Based around this time, this activity may trigger that. But before that, he will not want to go out as somebody who let this happen. He will basically take a big revenge. And one more small thing, for looking at India's chart and Pakistan's chart, this may be the last straw on the camel's back. In other words, see, lot of terrorist activities happened in the past. Lot of, for example, 2008 November happened, Pulwama. So several activities happened. But the thing is, sometimes when one particular thing happens, you feel like enough is enough. We need to basically now solve this forever. We can't let this keep going on. Basically, it's not like just doing a limited strike and basically feeling good about it. So my feeling is in the month of May, looking at India's looking at the Muhurta chart, I will, if I, one second, give me a second. If I look at the Muhurta chart, one technique is Muhurtas play out over a year. So we look at Dashas compressed to 1 year instead of 120 years. So if I look at the Mishwatri Dasha of the Rasi chart in the Muhurta, when this basically was conducted, Rahu Dasha runs from May 10 to July 5. Rahu, as I said, is the seventh lord in the 8th house, a Marka. So basically, some big loss for the perpetrators of this is possible May 10 to July 5. And then Sanidasa is from August 25 to October 22. So basically, August, September, October time frame is another time frame. So my assessment is there will be something short term, some surgical strike, just as we saw after the Pulwama attack. Some surgical strike is likely in May June time period in the Rahu Dasha that I mentioned, and then in the August September October time frame we may see something bigger, something else, which will take longer time to plan and which will basically relate to Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Just basically instead of just giving a lesson to the perpetrators and temporarily weakening them, something bigger, something that basically tries to address the root of this instead of just basically an eye for eye, a hand for hand kind of response, something that is basically trying to solve this forever. That kind of action can happen. And people may be expecting something like that immediately, but my thinking is it is more likely in the Shani Dasha than the Rahu Dasha, because Shani is the planet of Rahu is the fast planet. He's the planet of just do something hastily. Any knee-jerk reaction or first reaction is likely to be Rahu, and Saturn is the slow planet. He's the patient and disciplined planet. So to do something, for example, to cut off Pakistan occupied Kashmir from Pakistan and take over, or to take out some of the key facilities within Pakistan relating to nuclear weapons, etc. This kind of things, they need planning and they need perfect execution. So something along those lines that will cripple Pakistan and basically start the process of weakening Pakistan and start the process of removing this problem forever may happen in the second half of this year after the Independence Day. But my thinking is this is a period of wars for India, and this is a period of destruction and decay for Pakistan. And another thing India should and most likely will do is, instead of just attacking Pakistan from one front, they will also strengthen Pakistan's enemies who can attack Pakistan from other fronts. And also, there is another thing India has to do. See, Pakistan has no support from any country other than China. US doesn't give a damn about Pakistan, and even I'm afraid even the Muslim countries, whether it's Shia countries like Iran or Sunni countries like Saudi Arabia, they don't give a shit about Pakistan. Pakistan is really isolated except for China. And because China sees India as a threat, and China is pissed off that US is using India as a proxy to basically contain China, they are pissed off and they want to basically teach a lesson to India. So they are they are and will use Pakistan as a proxy to teach a lesson to India. But the thing is, my assessment is looking at China's chart and India's chart, India's annual charts, comparing them, my assessment is China will not directly get involved, because some people are saying if India attacks Pakistan, there will be a two-front war that India has to fight, one on the east with China, the other with Pakistan. I expect that won't be the case. China will just provoke Pakistan and try to support them, and then try to basically get them to fight India. But China will not directly get their hands dirty. They will not get involved. Even in the Russia-Ukraine war, they were only providing moral support and financial support to Russia. They were not directly involved. And the same thing. And Pakistan is a much smaller player than Russia. So the thing is, India should not worry about China coming into play. But the thing is, this is what I am astrologically saying. But on the ground, to make sure that happens, India has to make the right moves. So all the all the consultations with allies that have to be done properly, so that China is busy with some other crises around this is being planned. So this will all take a few months. So my assessment is that Narendra Modi ji, Amit Shah ji, Rajnath Singh ji, and Ajit Doval ji, they will basically plan this very thoroughly, and they will make sure that China is busy at the time, that they can't directly get involved and take Pakistan by surprise, and at the same time orchestrate such that Pakistan also has some other fronts to basically fight on, Baluchistan, Afghanistan, etc. So that is my assessment. But the thing is, instead of attacking Pakistan all the way from all directions, for example, from the Arabian Sea, etc., I don't think it will be an invasion of Pakistan itself. It will be basically directed at possibly nuclear facilities as well as POK. The focus will be cutting off POK from Pakistan and basically creating the situation where POK can be taken by India over long run. So creating the situation for that is something that's likely to happen in the second half of this year. So that is my overall assessment. So bottom line is, I expect two responses: a first short-term response similar to Pulwama attack, and a surgical strike in the May-June timeframe, and a longer-term attack that is. This will really be the trigger of things that will happen over the next few years. That will really result in the decay, the collapse of the modern state of Pakistan. So I hope that Indians at least looking at my social media feed, I see that people are frustrated, people are impatient, people want Modi to just go and attack, invade Pakistan today. But the thing is, that will be counterproductive. There are more effective ways of taking down Pakistan and taking over POK, so that the headache from taking over POK for India is minimized. So all that will be planned in the next few months. And I do think that this time will be different. This time there will be more long-lasting reaction from India, which will have far-reaching consequences. But at the same time, they will plan the details such that the pros will be more than the cons. Basically, pros will outweigh the cons.
So there was one question in my mind. You're saying there will be one surgical strike currently, somewhere about any
In the
time
next few
frame, like May, June, first week, third week, like that. And the second that I'm asking is the one you're saying in October, November. Will that be provoked or unprovoked?
See,
Because
August, late August, September, October. Yeah.
so this will again be
Go ahead.
provoked. Like they will do something again in order to invite the trouble itself.
If they provoke, even better. But even if they provoke, I think this provocation is enough. Based on the current provocation, the thinking is, we can't keep letting this happen. We can't just react to, they do something and then we react. Basically, let's take out the infrastructure. Let's basically take out the root itself. Instead of pruning the tree, just cut off the roots. So that will be the thinking. And further, the planning, I think the planning is probably going on right now. The thinking, they're consolidating their thinking on what they can do, what is realistic. See, with every action, there is a reaction. So there are pros and cons. It's not like there is a particular action which has no cons at all, which is basically only good for you. Every action has pros and cons. So I think that the government of India is weighing the pros and cons of various alternatives and picking the best alternative to solve this in the long term, basically. So whatever they do in the late August, September, and October time period is likely to weaken the infrastructure that is feeding into this activity, weaken the funding, weaken the. Moreover, POK is a feeding ground for all this activity. So basically, cut off POK from Kashmir, from Pakistan's control, and uh, also one point people always make about attacking Pakistan is, oh, they are a nuclear armed country. So basically, doing something about it so that Pakistan will be crippled in that area is also possible.
Maybe
So this
taking
will be
over of the nuclear weapons by during those couple of months that we are talking about.
taking
The
some
gap.
strikes, some targeted strikes at Pakistan's nuclear facilities is quite possible during that period. But so basically, not a small surgical strike that you can feel good about and make a movie later on. That's basically I don't think that will be the case. That will be the case in May 10 to July. Was it July 25? May 10 to July 5. May 10 to July 5, Rahu Dasha, which I mentioned. Then something similar to what we have done in the past, a surgical strike that you can feel good about. You can say, yeah, we basically did something, and then you can make a nice Bollywood movie about, and people can watch it and feel good about. All that is likely in the Rahu Dasha. But in Saturn Dasha, it is something more long term, more basically impactful, because you want to solve the root cause. See, if you get a cold, if you are getting cold every month, you can pop a pill and get rid of the cold. But the thing is, you can see what is giving the cold. Maybe there is a lot of kapha accumulated in your chest. So basically, you take it out. So basically, fixing the root cause, it takes more time. It takes more planning. It takes more time to execute. So they will do something along those lines, and that will be big. That is likely to be very big, and that is likely to basically make the world concerned. But the thing is, the main concern is this may result in a nuclear war, etc. But India will make sure that there is no such nuclear catastrophe. So they will basically call Pakistan's bluff and weaken Pakistan. And one country, see, US will be with India on this, and China will not be with India. But of course, they will not want to directly jump in and get their hands dirty. They will only talk, and they will only give proxy support to Pakistan, and that won't be enough. But one country apart from US, see, US also will talk and do some strategic moves. But one country which will really stand with India is Israel. I always mention that India and Israel friendship is here to stay for the rest of the decade, and it will be very crucial in 2030, 2031 time frame. So India should basically continue to be friendly with Israel. So Israel will be a partner in this particular effort, because they have some know-how in this kind of things. They have some nuclear armed enemies that they deal with.
Right. जी. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. जाने से पहले सर का चैनल, सर की वेबसाइट, I will linking in the comment section and also in the description box. Please जाइए, like करिए, subscribe करिए, share करिए, and homes करना सीखिए from the homes वाला website that are also I'll put it. इसी के साथ जय हिंद, जय श्री राम, हर हर महादेव. Thank you so much, sir.
Jai Hind, Jai Shri Ram, Har Har Mahadev, and may peace prevail. May people basically keep calm and basically wait for the right action. Sometimes knee-jerk action is not the right action. Thumping chest is not the right action. Just be patient. The right reaction will come from this government. Just be patient.
Thank you,
Jai
sir.
Shri Ram.